I have been waiting, yes, waiting for hours to tell you this, because what I am about to say is not casual, it is not ordinary, and it is not meant for everyone. There are words that pass through ears and are forgotten, and then there are words that pierce the soul and rearrange a person from the inside out. This is one of those moments. You may not understand why you feel different. You may not have the language for the restlessness in your spirit, the quiet pull that keeps calling you away from what everyone else seems comfortable with. You try to fit in, to silence it, to ignore it, but it does not leave. That's because it was never meant to leave. It is a calling, and very few truly understand it. There's a reason your path has felt lonely at times. A reason why doors closed that you prayed would open. A reason why certain people walked away when you thought they would stay forever. It is not punishment, it is preparation. When God calls someone into a deeper purpose, He begins by separating them. Not to harm them, but to refine them. You thought you were losing things, but in reality, you were being positioned. There are moments when heaven goes quiet, when prayers seem to echo without response, when you feel like you are walking through a wilderness with no clear direction. But understand this, silence is not absence. God does some of His deepest work in seasons where you hear Him the least. Because in those moments, He is not just speaking to your ears, He is shaping your spirit. And this calling, it is not comfortable. It will challenge you. It will stretch you. It will ask you to become someone you never imagined you could be. That's why few understand it. Because most people want blessings, but not transformation. They want purpose, but not the process. You, however, have been marked for something deeper. That discomfort you feel, it's not confusion, it's awakening. That pressure, it's not destruction, it's development. God is pressing on you because there is something inside of you that must be brought out, something too significant to remain hidden. You are not created to blend into the background. You are not designed to live a life that looks like everyone else's. There's a divine assignment on your life, and it requires a different level of obedience, a different level of faith, a different level of surrender. And here is the truth that many are not ready to hear. The calling will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you approval. It may even cost you relationships you once held dear. But what you gain in return cannot be measured by human standards. Because when you step into what God has designed for you, you step into alignment with something eternal. You have been sensing it, haven't you? That quiet voice telling you there is more. That pull towards something greater than what you can see right now. That feeling that your life is meant to carry weight, meaning, impact. That is not imagination. That is invitation. And today, you are being asked a question, not with words, but with purpose. Will you answer the call? Not halfway, not when it's convenient, but fully, completely, without holding anything back. Because the ones who understand this calling are not the ones who have it easy. They are the ones who choose obedience when it's hard. They are the ones who keep walking when the path is unclear. They are the ones who trust God not just in the light, but in the darkness. You are closer than you think, closer to clarity, closer to breakthrough, closer to becoming the person you were created to be. Do not shrink back now. This moment, this exact moment, is not random. You were meant to hear this. You were meant to feel this stirring. You were meant to recognize that what you've been going through is not meaningless. It has been preparation for what comes next. Stand up in your spirit. Shake off the doubt. Silence the fear. And step forward, even if your steps feel small. Because when you move in faith, God meets you in power. You have been waiting for a sign, for confirmation, for something to tell you that you're not imagining this calling. This is it. Now the question is not whether you were called. The question is whether you will answer. There is something stirring inside you that you cannot fully explain, something deeper than emotion and stronger than passing thoughts. It does not come and go like a feeling. It stays, it lingers, it presses against your spirit, even in moments when you try to distract yourself from it. You have felt it in the quiet hours, when everything around you slows down and the noise fades, and suddenly there is an awareness that your life is not meant to be ordinary. It is not loud, yet it is undeniable. It does not force you, yet it refuses to leave you alone. You may have tried to name it before. Maybe you called it ambition, or restlessness, or even confusion. But deep down, you know it is something more sacred than that. It feels like a pull, like an invisible hand gently guiding your attention towards something you cannot yet see clearly. It creates a tension between where you are and where you sense you are meant to be. And that tension has been growing. There are moments when you look at your current life and everything seems fine on the surface, yet inside, something feels incomplete. Not because you're ungrateful, but because your spirit recognizes that there is more depth, more purpose, more meaning than what is visible right now. This is not dissatisfaction with life. It is awakening to something greater than it. This stirring does not come without discomfort. In fact, it often brings confusion because it begins to shift your desires. Things that once satisfied you no longer hold the same weight. Conversations that once felt normal now seem empty. Environments that once felt comfortable now feel restrictive. You start to notice that you are changing, even if nothing around you has changed yet. And that can feel isolating because not everyone will understand why you're no longer the same. You might have questioned yourself during this process, wondering if you're overthinking, if you're expecting too much, if you're somehow creating this feeling on your own. But this is not something you manufactured. This is something that was placed within you. It is intentional. It is purposeful. It is the beginning of alignment between who you are and who you were created to become. There is also a sensitivity that begins to develop within you. You start to perceive things differently. You become more aware of what is right and what is not. You feel a stronger pull toward truth, toward meaning, toward something that goes beyond surface-level living. It is as if your spirit is waking up, becoming more alert, more receptive, more alive than it has ever been before. This stirring is not meant to confuse you. It is meant to awaken you. It is not meant to burden you. It is meant to prepare you. It is the first signal that something significant is unfolding within your life, something that cannot be ignored and will not be silenced. There are moments when life begins to shift in ways you did not expect, and at first it feels like things are falling apart. Doors that once stood open suddenly close without explanation. Opportunities you were certain about disappear. People you trusted begin to distance themselves, and relationships that once felt secure become uncertain or fade away entirely. It can feel confusing, even painful, because you are left trying to understand what changed and why everything no longer fits the way it once did. In these moments, it is easy to assume that something has gone wrong. You may question your decisions, your worth, or even your direction. You may wonder if you have somehow missed something or made a mistake that caused this shift. But what feels like loss is often not loss at all. It is a process of separation, one that is necessary when you are being prepared for something deeper than what you have known before. Not everything that begins with you is meant to continue with you. There are connections, environments, and paths that serve a purpose for a season, but they are not designed to be permanent. When that season ends, there is a natural pulling away that begins to take place. It is not always dramatic or obvious. Sometimes it is subtle, a gradual drifting that you can feel but cannot fully explain. Other times it is sudden and unmistakable, leaving you with no choice but to accept that something has changed. This process can feel lonely because as certain things are removed from your life, there is often a space left behind. A silence where there was once noise. A stillness where there was once activity. And in that space, you are faced with yourself in a way that you may not have experienced before. There are fewer distractions, fewer places to hide, and more awareness of what is happening within you. That silence is not empty. It is intentional. It creates room for clarity, for growth, for a deeper understanding of who you are becoming. When everything familiar is stripped away, you begin to see more clearly what truly matters and what is not. You begin to recognize patterns, habits, and attachments that were once hidden beneath comfort and routine. It is in this space that transformation begins to take root. There may also be resistance within you during this time, a desire to hold on to what is leaving, to restore what once was, to return to a place that felt safe and predictable. That response is natural because letting go is rarely easy. But holding on to what is no longer meant for you can delay the very growth that this process is trying to produce. What is being removed is not being taken from you to harm you, but to make space for what aligns with your purpose. Separation is not rejection. It is redirection. It is a refining process that clears away what no longer fits so that what truly belongs can take its place. Even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it does not make sense in the moment, there is intention behind it. There is a shaping taking place beneath the surface, preparing you for something that requires a different version of you, one that is not held back by what you have outgrown. There comes a point when the reality of the calling begins to settle in, not as an idea, but as a weight you can actually feel. It is no longer just a quiet stirring or a season of change. It becomes something that demands a response from you. You begin to realize that this path is not casual, and it is not something you can carry half-heartedly. It requires your attention, your discipline, your willingness to become someone different from who you have been. This weight is not always comfortable. In fact, most of the time it feels like pressure. It stretches you beyond your natural limits and confronts areas of your life that you may have avoided. It calls you to let go of habits, mindsets, and patterns that once felt normal. It challenges the way you think, the way you speak, and the way you respond to situations. There is a constant awareness that you are being shaped, and that shaping does not come without resistance. You may notice that you can no longer move the way you used to. Decisions that once seemed simple now carry a deeper sense of responsibility. You feel a need to be more intentional, more careful, more aligned with what you know is right. It is as if there's a higher standard being placed on your life, one that you did not choose on your own, but one that you cannot ignore either. And with that standard comes a level of accountability that can feel overwhelming at times. There is also a level of sacrifice that becomes unavoidable. The calling will ask you to give up comfort, to release control, and to trust even when there is no clear outcome in sight. It may require you to walk away from opportunities that look good on the surface, but do not align with your deeper purpose. It may require you to stand firm in situations where it would be easier to compromise. These moments test your commitment, revealing whether you are willing to carry the weight or if you will set it down when it becomes inconvenient. At times, you may feel misunderstood by others. People may not see what you see or feel what you feel, and because of that, they may question your choices. They may not understand why you're changing, why you're no longer satisfied with what once seemed enough. This can create a sense of isolation, not because you are completely alone, but because the depth of what you are experiencing is not something that can easily be explained. Yet within this weight, there is also purpose. It is not random or unnecessary. Every moment of pressure is shaping your capacity, strengthening your character, and deepening your faith. It is teaching you endurance, patience, and resilience in ways that comfort never could. It is preparing you to carry something greater than yourself, something that requires strength not just on the outside, but within your spirit. This calling is not light, and it was never meant to be. It is significant, and significance carries responsibility. It requires you to grow, to stretch, to rise beyond your limitations. It calls you to live with intention, to walk with conviction, and to remain faithful even when the path is difficult and the outcome is not yet visible. There comes a moment when everything you have been sensing, everything you have been experiencing, begins to converge into a single point of decision. It is no longer just about what you feel or what you understand. It becomes about what you're going to do with it. The awareness of a calling brings you to a crossroads where remaining the same is no longer an option. Yet stepping forward requires a level of faith you may not feel fully ready for. This decision is deeply personal. No one else can make it for you, and no one else can fully carry the weight of it with you. Others may offer advice, encouragement, or even doubt, but at the end of the day, it is your response that determines your direction. You are faced with the choice to either lean into what is calling you forward or retreat into what is familiar and comfortable. And while comfort may feel safe, it often keeps you from stepping into the fullness of what has been placed before you. There's a tension in this moment because both paths carry a cost. Staying where you are may protect you from immediate discomfort, but can also lead to a quiet frustration, a sense that you're holding back from something that matters. Moving forward, on the other hand, requires you to embrace uncertainty. It asks you to take steps without having every detail mapped out, to trust even when clarity is incomplete, and to act even when fear is present. Fear often speaks loudly at this stage. It brings questions, doubts, and worst-case scenarios to the surface. It tells you that you are not ready, not capable, or not equipped for what lies ahead. It tries to convince you that waiting is the safer option, that delaying your response will somehow make things easier. But waiting does not remove the calling. It only prolongs the moment of decision. The longer you delay, the heavier it can begin to feel. Faith, however, speaks differently. It does not always remove fear, but it gives you the strength to move despite it. It reminds you that you do not need to have everything figured out before you begin. It shifts your focus from your limitations to the possibility of what can unfold when you take that first step. It invites you to trust not in your own ability alone, but in something greater that is guiding you forward. This step forward does not have to be dramatic or perfect. It can be small, intentional, and even uncertain. What matters is the direction. Each step you take begins to build momentum, creating clarity where there was once confusion. As you move, you start to see things differently. Opportunities begin to align, understanding begins to deepen, and confidence begins to grow, not because everything is easy, but because you're choosing to engage with the process rather than avoid it. There is also a shift that happens within you when you make this decision. You move from hesitation to commitment, from observation to participation. You stop standing on the outside of your own life and begin to actively shape it. This does not eliminate challenges, but changes how you face them. You begin to approach obstacles not as reasons to stop, but as part of the journey you have chosen to embrace. The decision to answer is not about perfection or certainty, but about willingness. It is about choosing to respond to what has been placed within you, even when the path ahead is still unfolding.